I think we'll make a start. Thanks very much for everybody joining on the Zoom call tonight. We have 7 attendees so far, so there's a few more have registered. So no doubt we might get a few more just as the presentation moves forward. So firstly, we have a group of panelists here on the call this evening for this what is our third consultation event. We had our first consultation event back in November, followed by a co-design workshop in February. So this is our third event, and then following on from this, we'll have another co-design workshop towards the end of May, and then the final exhibition this summer. So really just as a starting point, if I could introduce myself as Chris McNabb from GM Design Associates. So we're the lead consultants on the project. And it'll be myself and my colleague Marcus Shields who'll be delivering the presentation tonight. So if I could now pass over to my colleague Marcus, and then following that, our clients from Brent Council will also introduce themselves as well. So if I pass over to Marcus.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, my name is Marcus Shields. I work for GM Design Associates as well, and I'm based in London.
And James.
Hi everyone, I'm James Cooper. I work within Brent's South Kilburn regeneration team, and I am the officer leading the Carltonvale Boulevard project.
Thank you, James. Marie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marie, and I am senior project manager working within the South Kilburn team, overseeing the Carltonvale Boulevard project.
Thank you, Marie. Adam.
Hello everyone, my name is Adam Smith and I'm a Principal Engineer in the Highways and Infrastructure Service at Brent.
Thank you. And we also have my colleague Jacinda Rafferty from GM Design who will be assisting with the presentation tonight, in case anybody has any issues with their Zoom link. Okay, so in terms of the format for tonight's consultation event, we'll do a presentation for around half an hour. And then this will be followed by a Q&A session at the end. So just a note to all the attendees there, your microphone will be off for the presentation, and so will your video. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have a question and answer session. So you'll be allowed to raise questions there as well. You'll also note that at the bottom of your screen there's a Q&A icon. So feel free to, while the presentation is progressing, feel free to drop in any questions into the Q&A box, and then we can pick them up at the end of the presentation. So if I could just share my screen here, and then we'll start with the presentation. Okay. Let's make this full screen. Okay, so this is our second online consultation event for the Carltonvale Boulevard project. We're having one event tonight on the 11th of May, and then we'll have the same event again, or the same format of an event on Thursday of this week as well. In terms of, I just touched on there in terms of asking questions. So yeah, certainly we'll have a question and answer session at the very end of the presentation, but so, as the presentation moves forward, feel free to drop any questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen there. Just type in a question into the Q&A box, and then we can pick that question up at the end of the presentation. If you see another question from one of the other attendees that you have a similar question to, or that you agree with their question, you can also give it the thumbs up to upvote this question as well. Okay, just in terms of some housekeeping, and to just give it an overview of the consultation process. So to help reduce feedback or interference, your video screen is automatically switched off. Also, your microphone will automatically be muted for the duration of the presentation. This presentation is also being recorded, and the recording will be posted on our project website and also circulated to any interested parties who were unable to attend the presentation this evening. But please note that the question and answer session at the very end will not be recorded. So yes, we'll have the question and answer session, which we've touched on already. And we've also touched on that you can raise questions as the presentation is happening. We also have a project website, which is www.carltonvaleboulevard.co.uk. So some of you may have already visited the website, so feel free to go on there. We have information on the previous consultation events there, project information, and various other information about the social value events and general news and events of the project are hosted on the website there as well. So following on from the event on this evening and on Thursday, we will have some consultation information boards and a feedback form that will be hosted on the project website from this Friday. We can also email this information to people. If you would like, please get in touch if you'd like us to email that out to you. And we would really encourage you to fill in that feedback form. It's, the whole point of the consultation process is that we get as much input and feedback as much as possible from the residents, the local communities, the stakeholders. At the end of the day, this is your project, and it's vitally important that you help to shape and tailor the proposals to meet your needs. At the end of the day, this is your environment. This is the place that you'll be, living in, socializing in, recreation, and enjoying the public realm. So it's important that the proposals are fitting for your needs and the needs of all your neighbours and the people within the community. So this is the third event in our consultation process, and a further co-design workshop and a final exhibition will take place this summer. Just to give a quick overview on what will be included within the presentation. So we'll have an introduction at the start. We'll set the scene by looking at the project context, looking at the local area, the context of the master plan for South Kilburn. We'll provide some information on the progress, on our design development, and then we'll have a look at some detailed sections on trees, biodiversity and planting, the public realm, transport and connectivity. And then towards the end of the presentation, we'll look at our social value initiatives and we'll touch on feedback and how to provide that. And then we'll have our question and answer session at the end. As you can see, the image, the concept image on the right hand side, some of you might be familiar with this image from the first consultation event. But certainly that was one of our starting points in terms of looking at the aspiration for Carltonvale. This view is looking towards just where the bus is. On the left hand side of the image is where the Falcon pub is at the minute. So this view is looking up towards Salisbury Road and Queen's Park, looking west along Carltonvale. Okay, just to give you a bit of project background information and to look at the purpose of tonight's event and the project team. So really the purpose of this online consultation event is to inform and engage local residents and stakeholders about the design proposals for Carltonvale Boulevard. This is a really exciting project, and this project aspires to transform Carltonvale in South Kilburn into an ecologically diverse, tree-lined avenue with reimagined public spaces and improved transportation links. So the Carltonvale project is being led by the London Borough of Brent, and the council has appointed ourselves, award-winning consultants, GM Design Associates, and we come with over 30 years experience in landscape architecture and public realm strategies. So to allow us to progress this project and to really work through the designs in a lot of detail, we've assembled a strong multidisciplinary team of consultants to ensure a high quality scheme is delivered in line with the aspirations of the 2016 South Kilburn Master Plan and the SPD 2017. So this team includes the Steer Group, who are our transport consultants, Price Myers, who are structural and civil engineers and flood risk assessors, Cutch Perry Wilkes, who are mechanical and electrical engineers, the Ecology Consultancy, Dust Scan, who are air quality consultants, and Curry and Brown, who are quantity surveyors, who look after the cost plans and the budget for the project. So really just to have a look at some of the project context. In terms of the image on the top left, you can see just where my cursor is here as to where Carltonvale is. So Carltonvale is located right in the corner of the Brent Borough area. So, and from the diagram on the right, so you can see where Carltonvale flows through South Kilburn. So it's bound by Queen's Park Station on the northwest. Our project site is bound by Queen's Park Station on the northwest, and also by Kilburn Park Road on the east. And then you can just see where the South Kilburn open space is located there, about halfway up the site. So all in all, Carltonvale is about 1.2 kilometres long. Our overall project area is about 20,000 metres squared. And you can also see just from the aerial photograph here, we've outlined the project area in red here. So just to allow people to get the bearings again, that is Queen's Park in this location here. The mosque is located around here. South Kilburn open space is here. And then Kilburn Park Road is here. So one of the interfaces of our project is the current gyratory site for the Queen's Park and Cullen House site, which is this area in blue, which is just highlighted to the west of our site here. Okay, just to set the scene in terms of the master plan context. So the regeneration programme for South Kilburn is guided by a master plan. So the council appointed an urban design-led team to undertake a comprehensive strategic master plan review in collaboration with the community, which was completed in 2016 and latterly adopted in 2017. So you can see one of the images from the master plan here on the left of the screen. So this is the whole South Kilburn area regeneration area. And Carltonvale plays a key role running right the way through the middle of this master plan area. You know, really Carltonvale is a crucial element to that really brings together this whole master plan. You know, it really interfaces with all the new emerging sites, which particularly line the northern side of Carltonvale. And it is a good interface with South Kilburn open space and all of the other open spaces that are dotted around close to Carltonvale, including Woodhouse Urban Park, which was recently developed to the north of our site there. And whenever you look at the master plan, it defined 8 spatial principles for the South Kilburn regeneration. And you can see principle number 1 is Carltonvale as a tree-lined avenue and as a spine for the area, animated with green spaces, retail and community uses. So that's, you know, it's critically important. That was one of the guiding principles within the master plan of this tree-lined avenue or boulevard. You know, this real tangible space, you know, of a green infrastructure space that really creates this spine that runs through the whole of the master plan. You know, so, you know, and if you look at principle 8 there, street as a landscape, you know, there's a critical importance here that Carltonvale can not only act as a street and a landscape, but also as you know, as something, an element that improves the air quality, improves the visual appearance of the street, that also improves the wildlife and the aspect of biodiversity, and also creates this enhanced public realm area where the focus is very much on the pedestrian, the cyclists, and you know the current dominance of the cars is downplayed, and the emphasis is really on those public realm areas and allowing people to integrate in these public realm areas, to socialise, to recreate, and to really enjoy the surroundings there. In terms of our progress, so following on from the project inception, we've been progressing well with the proposals of the Carltonvale Boulevard project. So as the way that we work, we follow the REBA plan of works, which is the overarching guideline for architects and landscape architects in terms of the various stages of work. So we're nearing the end of stage 2, REBA stage 2, which is the concept design stage, and we will complete REBA stage 3, which is spatial coordination, by the end of the summer. So in terms of the process of getting the contractor on board, we'll actually build out the works. That procurement process will start in winter 2021, and we'll complete this process by April next year. So we aim to start on site in spring 2022 with the envisaged completion date of spring 2023. But we would note that these dates are subject to change, and any change will be communicated with the community and all the stakeholders. In terms of the consultations, we held our first consultation event in December, followed by our co-design workshop in February. And I think, you know, certainly there's a few of the attendees this evening who who were at the co-design workshop. I think it was a very lively forum. It was very engaging. There was a lot of lively debate. Allowed everyone to provide input into the proposals, and we've taken a lot of those comments on board and factored them into some of the design work that you see this evening. So really some of those key themes that were emerging from the consultation process, some of the key questions that were being asked, some of the key issues that were being raised, really focused on elements such as traffic flow and parking, the cycle lane provision and connectivity, street furniture and the element, the sort of detailed design of street furniture, elements of lighting and ecology and how those two aspects influence each other, tree species, safety and security, looking at this nighttime economy and how that will sort of bring Carltonvale to life in the evening and nighttime. The questions were raised on the maintenance and how the project will be maintained, and also how the project is being funded. In terms of the Brent Council stakeholders, for us, it's as a design team, it's been great working with Brent Council. Each of the different departments has been very engaging, have very much embraced the innovative approach to the project, are coming on board with ideas and designs that help us sort of collaboratively work to the betterment of the project. So some of the different teams within Brent that we've been working with have been, lighting and CCTV, bins, parking and electric vehicle charging points, the various departments that deal with that. Highways and Infrastructure Department. We've also been working with the guys in relation to traffic management. We've been working with the tree officers and the parks officers as well. Also looking at the recent sort of developments of the Brent B corridor and how we can integrate with that. Been working with the procurement teams in terms of the best way forward to get a contractor on board and the best route for doing that. And also we've been working with the air quality department as well, just seeing what innovative approaches we can bring to the table in terms of enhancing the air quality and making improvements on that front. Okay, I'd like to now pass over to my colleague Marcus Shields, who will present some of the drawings here. We've got 4 drawings and some visuals, and Marcus will talk you through the design development and some of the ideas that are emerging and some of the design approaches that we're taking.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, working with the principles of the master plan and initial consultation and design stages, we've really started to look at the detail and the type of elements and materials which will be contained along Carltonvale. We have 4 drawings, which are a little bit more detailed than when we last presented, and the 4 drawings run from Queen's Park to Kilburn Park Road, so left to right or west to east. So I think it's important to note that these drawings show a combination of existing buildings, but then they also show buildings which will be delivered as part of the master plan. So this important area, I suppose, round out the Falcon Pub at present, where Marks and Spencer's is on the northern side. Will be extensive changes there, and I think where Chris is, yes, where the mouse is just going. The key change in this area will be removal of the Premier Gyratory. Now it's worth saying that the removal of the Premier Gyratory is a separate project to our commission, but certainly something which will be delivered as part of the master plan. And that provides a huge opportunity to create much less traffic dominated space, which Carltonvale would be very much in line with Queen's Park and Cullen House development to create that interface. So this drawing looks quite different from what is on site at present, but as I say, it represents, I suppose, the future aspiration. And also we're showing William Dunbar and William Melville as the future aspiration, as opposed to the buildings which are on site at present. And this area really is identified as quite a high footfall area. It's referred to as the civic quarter. And I think given the proximity to Queen's Park, it will be a high use public realm and a very active space. The design looked at certainly improving crossings, and those are shown with the blue arrows. And it's worth noting as well that the southern side of the site is actually within Westminster's jurisdiction, and that will be remaining mainly as it is at present. with the bus stop down around at the corner remaining as well. Well, with this, it really is the gateway to what is a fantastically exciting project, and what we're suggesting is that there's potential for a gateway or a gateway feature, something which really identifies Carltonvale and kind of identifies that change from Queen's Park as you travel down to Carltonvale. And I think it's worth saying that the cycle infrastructure here would be on either side of the street, which is continuous down the length of Carltonvale. And we'll have a look at the cycle infrastructure in a little bit more detail shortly. But we feel here there is opportunities to incorporate some small-scale suds planting strips or potentially some trees at the kind of Albert Road junction, and also potentially looking at upgrading the repair dock, which is existing. As we travel down, I suppose, round the corner, there is a lot. The existing trees which are shown will be within the William Dunbar site, but they will be remaining. And then, really, we think there's an opportunity to start trying to get some boulevard trees just down at the bottom corner, which Chris is highlighting at present. So this is really starting to become the boulevard in its, I suppose, in its entirety. So this is quite an important space. I suppose Carltonvale changes as it goes along the length, and it's worth saying that anything we're doing is a continuous treatment or a kind of end-to-end treatment to make sure there is continuity within Carltonvale itself. If you go to the next slide, thanks, Chris. So the next area is loosely referred to in the master plan as the civic quarter, and this is really tying together quite a lot of existing uses. So from left to right, we have West Kilburn Baptist Church, passing the mosque, and the CCZ site or Crate Court. We're trying this again as the proposal. And we've been working quite closely with that team to ensure that the Carltonvale proposals very much dovetail with what's being done there. And then it continues along past the Peel site on the northern side, which again is a development which is actually on site at present. And one of the key interfaces on the southern side is the interface with South Kilburn open space. We see this as a fantastic opportunity to kind of draw nature from the park into the street. And then around about Malvern Road, it becomes more residential in character on the southern side of the road. Outside the mosque, or the kind of Rupert Road, Malvern Road, Canterbury Road junction, we foresee an opportunity to create a civic space or certainly an improved junction. And what we're looking at is this space being flexible public realm to accommodate a number of uses, whether that's pop-up stalls or small-scale markets. And the design at present has a number of benches and seats, and it looks at creating that kind of civic space, which this is really the largest space in the project itself. As I say, it's that quite important hub. And what we're looking at here is this very much improved junction and very much reducing that that dominance of vehicles to create public realm which works for people or for residents. And I think at this stage where we are starting to think about materials, but we are suggesting that the civic space would be a high quality material, a natural stone. We're suggesting porphyry, which is a stone which works very well in terms of its strength, colour, and the image there is of the porphyry in the rain. And I think we're suggesting that the key civic spaces will be treated with natural stone. And then as we go further down, so outside the CCZ, we're looking at potentially another concrete type material, but certainly the natural stone will define the main spaces. And really this is, I suppose, where we start kind of define the boulevard as such, where we can get an avenue of trees on either side of Carltonvale. And on the northern side, the cycle path would be separated by a 2.5 metre strip, and on the southern side, the trees would be to the south of the cycle path. So we're very much looking at a kind of two-way cycle path, which is in principle similar to what they have on site, but it will be reconfigured to have separation and create, I suppose, improved safety for cycling. I'll have a look at the cycle path in slightly more detail. But certainly, Chris, if you're able just to highlight the northern strip there, if you don't mind. So this, most of the parking and function of Carltonvale is on this northern side, whether that's parking, loading, or bus stops. So the 2.5 metre strip allows this activity to remain and take place. And again, we'll look at our parking strategy in a little bit more detail in a second. And I think it's worth noting that on the right-hand side of the image, we're very much looking to reinforce the existing crossing, which is the crossing from Fieldside to South Kilburn open space, and improve it, I suppose. And again, we've met with the Peel team to ensure that there's like a fluidity to those spaces. If you go to the next slide, thanks, Chris. And this, so this is, there's 4 slides, and this is the 3rd one. What we're considering here is this is where the interface with South Kilburn open space becomes quite significant. And along, I suppose, this sector on both sides, there are a large number of existing trees. And in the main, those will be, we'll be looking to retain those. We've had the trees surveyed, and we're currently working with the basis of that survey to ensure that the trees and the root protection zones are considered as part of the design. And I suppose there is less space here, and it is worth noting that the key civic space outside the mosque, there's a little bit more space, but at this point the boulevard becomes slightly more linear, and I think we will be able to define smaller scale crossing points, which again tie with the connecting the Carlton Centre, the Granville Centre with South Kilburn open space. And I suppose the images of the benches, the lighting, and the cycle parking, this is where these are, so their ideas at present. Certainly, we'll be looking at some lighting which offers smaller scale lighting to people, and then kind of larger scale carriageway lighting. And I think the furniture and cycle parking is something we're looking at present to ensure that it defines Carltonvale or defines the street. And the bus stop here in the middle is one of the is the only bus stop in the south in Carltonvale in this section. And here it remains in the same place, but we are looking at potentially incorporation of a green roof, which is something we're discussing with TfL at present. And if I go to the next slide, Chris. And this is the, I suppose, the far eastern end of our site. And again, to the north here, we're reflecting the Hereford Nexter proposal as the master plan shows it. And we have the Gloucester and Durham, which is just due for completion. So it's quite an important interface. The Granville Urban Park will be created as part of the Hereford Nexter development. And I suppose we're suggesting that will very much spill onto Carltonvale and enhance that space. So we're suggesting an improved junction here and improved cycling facilities down past Franklin House and Chase House. And this, we've already met with the Hereford Nexter team, for example, and we know that there's a requirement for loading in Carltonvale for their development. So those have been incorporated, and we're doing that with all the teams who are working on the master plan as such. Then as we exit Carltonvale, or as you would enter Carltonvale coming down Carlton Hill, we're suggesting there will be another gateway feature, something which very much identifies Carltonvale as a threshold of that transition in Carltonvale. And in many respects, Franklin House, Case House, and Gloucester and Durham, those are almost complete. So the kind of active frontage that will be created, I suppose, this end of Carltonvale is probably more complete than elsewhere. And again, we have the continuity of the 2.5 metre strip, which actually changes, excuse me, and then it refers to the southern side of the carriageway, which allows us to retain the blue badge parking bays which are existing. That's fine, Chris. And as part of the commission, we've been looking at some visualizations or representations for the project. And we commissioned some drone footage which gives a very good aspect to kind of see the kind of linear nature of Carltonvale. It kind of gives that elevated aspect. And this is the before image. So this is above, in the foreground to the left, it's Rupert Road, and to the right, it's Malvern Road. And you can just see the corner of the mosque with Z to the kind of middle left, which will be, as I say, going as part of the master plan. So if we go to the next slide, we can have a look at the visualization. And this is really a kind of concept visual for the types of materials, the types of seating, the types of activity that really just respond to the initial design stage, and really look at creating this very strong tree-lined boulevard with this public realm space that ties together the kind of 3 streets as such. And it's worth saying it's not a shared space. It's quite clearly delineated. Paths, carriageway, and the roads themselves are delineated as they enter Carltonvale. So these visuals are very useful tools for us to allow us to help things move forward. And certainly, I think previously we presented the cycle infrastructure being on the northern side or the left of the carriageway as you look at the screen, and obviously there's an evolution of that short way with flow cycle paths. Go to the next slide, Chris. Thank you. This is another aerial image, and this is actually looking from above, above, I suppose, the entrance to the school, or above South Kilburn open space to the left, and then to the right, it's Craig Court. This looks almost at the same area as previously, picking up that linear space, and then the mosque itself, the residential apartment left next to Malvern Road. So if we just pull up the other slide then. Yes, and this looks very much, again, as a kind of broad brush or a kind of conceptual treatment of how that may look. And I think these images are really helping form the design for us and help inform the materials as we move into the next stage. I suppose it's worth noting that the bus stop will remain, and obviously in this image the trees are remaining in the current location. And in the foreground to the left-hand side of the image, that's actually the area that's within Westminster's jurisdiction. Parking and bus stop will remain as currently on site. Thank you, Chris. That's
okay. Thanks very much for that, Marcus. We'll just move on to the next 2 visuals that we have prepared. So this is the image beforehand. So this is an image from the eastern end of South Kilburn open space, looking west along Carltonvale Boulevard. So you can just see South Kilburn open space. You'll be familiar with the sort of the wavy red railings on South Kilburn open space. You know, we've got the very mature tree line boundary just along the verge area between the edge of the footpath and the boundary to the open space. You can see the scaffolding around Merle Court there, and then the existing layout of Carltonvale with the cycleway here, and then the carriageway located here, and then the pedestrian crossing points going over. So this is one of our visuals for from the same location. So you can see really the energy and the aspirations of our proposals here, and you know, I think this image really gets across the essence of our, you know, how we're wanting to approach the development of the project. You know, how it can really revitalise the public realm space and the spaces you know, all around Carltonvale. So you can see on the left hand side of the image, we've been working with the regeneration team and the parks department within the council to look at, you know, how this space can be completely naturalised off the edge of the footpath. You know, how it could really be have a lot of new species, a lot of new sort of ground cover and low to medium height shrubs that can really grow under the sort of understory of the tree canopy there. You know, we're looking at species at how that can attract wildlife. You know, attract bees. You can see, you can almost hear the bees buzzing on this visual here. But also, you know, how we can increase the habitat for all the wildlife here as well. And that might also look at sort of putting bird boxes and bat boxes within the trees along the edge there as well. The footpath itself will be completely resurfaced for the whole length of Carltonvale there. And again, we're looking at creating something with a warm blend of colours that will help really lift the footpath areas there. So between the footpath and the cycleway, we'll have a strip of planting there. And again, there'll be raised edges to the edges of the planting there, just to give the planting a bit of protection there as well. And you can see our new light columns that will be shining light onto the footpath of public realm areas, and then shining light onto the carriageway and the cycleway areas as well. The cycleway itself will have a raised edge to give it protection from the carriageway there. And I guess, certainly people who were involved in the previous consultations will notice, one of the main design changes is that we previously had both cycleways on the northern side of of Carltonvale, but we've now split these so that they are what's called with flow cycleways. So there'll be a cycleway heading from west to east on the northern side, and then a cycleway heading from east to west on the southern side of Carltonvale. You can see where we'll be improving the crossing points here. And then again, this visual gives a good impression of our aspiration for the northern side of Carltonvale's, introduction of the boulevard of trees. The boulevard won't be just one species; it'll be a series of different species that will come to life at certain different times of the year. The tree species will be selected to improve the air quality and to enhance the opportunities for wildlife attraction there as well. There'll be quite a generous planting strip that will be between the cycleways and the carriageway there. And those planting strips will serve several different purposes to afford the cyclists and pedestrians, a certain green infrastructure barrier between their space and the carriageway space. Also, these beds will improve the surroundings in Carltonvale. They'll provide habitats for wildlife, bird life, insect life as well. And also, one of the main aspects as well is that we'll use these planting beds to as what's called as SUDS planting beds, so that's sustainable urban drainage systems. And the water from the carriageway and the footpaths will be allowed to infiltrate into these planting beds, and that will be sustainably drained back into the main sewer system there. And then occasionally dotted between these planting beds, we'll have spaces for parking, occasional spaces for loading, and also the bus stops will be dotted between these planting beds as well. In terms of another visual, so this visual is looking from the public realm at what will be the Hereford and Exeter development, which will take place here. And this looks east along Carltonvale Boulevard towards Kilburn Park Road there. Again, you can see the existing surface on the footpath, just a standard concrete paved surface. The existing curb edge, the provision of the cycleway at the minute, and then the parking provision and the carriageway area here. So in terms of this visual, so this visual shows our design intent in terms of where the public realm will be, where the cycleway will be, where these SUDS planting beds will be, and then the carriageway area here. So this area in white just delineates where the new Hereford and Exeter facade of the building will be, and then it shows how our public realm will interface and connect directly with the ground level of these new residential and commercial developments. Again, the paved surface will be a warm blend of materials, and then occasionally this will cross over to occasional seating spaces, which will be surrounded by an abundance of new planting, whether that's new tree planting or new ground level SUDS planting as well. Certainly the planting on the ground level will be very naturalistic, and something that will be geared towards attracting wildlife as well. And the trees, I think this visual gives a good impression of the size that the trees will go in at. So the trees will be going in a very mature size, and you can see from this visual how this creation of the boulevard will be achieved. So you can also see the cycleway provision. So that will be one directional cycleway provision on the northern side of Carltonvale here. And again, this just gives an indication of where the paving will be that will form the parking bays or the loading bays or the bus stops. And again, you can just see the lighting there shining onto the public realm and onto the carriageway. So if we could now pass back over to Marcus just to take us through some of the slides on on trees and biodiversity and planting, the public realm, and some of the transport and cycling infrastructure.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, so this slide is very much devoted to trees, biodiversity and planting. And I know we've touched on previous consultation, we've touched on vegetation species, and obviously during this presentation we mentioned where the trees will be located. As Chris said, the trees will be planted as very large trees to create that boulevard effect. And we very much see the tree choice, one of the key decisions for the project in many respects, to ensure that the boulevard is achieved in its entirety. And I suppose when compiling the list, we've worked quite closely with Council's tree officers. We've also looked at Carltonvale precedents. As it goes up to Carlton Hill, there's a number of different species, and then local kind of Westminster, Camden, or indeed London species and trees, which work very well to create that visual effects and seasonal colour and reduce pollutants. So we've categorised the trees into two different types. So the boulevard trees will be planted as large trees, but their ultimate size will be larger. And I suppose to increase biodiversity, we're not looking at one or two species. We're suggesting there's an opportunity for a few species here. So, to pick out a number of these trees, I won't go through them all in detail, but for example, American sweet gum has very nice autumn colour. And the alder is perhaps slightly less prolific in the autumn colour, but it's a native tree and it's a very pollution city tolerant tree. And I suppose working quite closely with Brent, as I mentioned, will ensure that any trees that are chosen are appropriate for the site. And I think there are trees which we would avoid, such as or trees which are susceptible to infection or disease. And also with the boulevard trees, it is worth noting that the existing London planes which are present on site, as though that's historic avenue, and these new species will create a new boulevard which will tie with the old trees. But certainly we think the species chosen here, we're quite happy with the fact that they will create that desired boulevard effect, and these trees are all long, I suppose they have longevity. Now there is an opportunity to incorporate smaller scale trees, and create that kind of more human scale layer, and that kind of planting behind the boulevard trees. So we have another proposed list here as such. And I think previously during the consultation, it was mentioned that there's perhaps fruiting trees would be aspirational, but I think we've identified that potentially fruiting trees are not great for upkeep in public realm. But then a tree such as the pear or the papyrus tree is, I suppose it's a fake fruit tree in that it has nice seasonal colours, but no fruit is. We're looking at cherries, and then we get into slightly more ornate trees such as magnolia and amelanchias, trees which are certainly quite small in scale. And really we also feel as if there's an opportunity here to introduce some pine or some evergreen elements, create that mix and that seasonal variation. And as Chris mentioned a second ago, the planting strips, the SUDs or sustainable urban drainage planting strips, will be developed with a mixture of species, give this natural appearance. And I suppose it's worth saying these will inherently be maintenance species, and they will inherently be something which provides the visual effect, has that kind of relatively robust and I suppose easy to look at. And there is an opportunity for these plants to provide educational opportunities, or whether that's through naming them or naming the benefits they're offering to nature and to biodiversity. So we're more fixed on the tree species than we are at present on the suds planting, but certainly that's something we're working through over the next stage. Chris. And as we've mentioned before, we're now getting to the point where we're considering materials. And I think we had said that these spaces will be defined with natural stone, and that will change to materials such as Kellen as we go down the boulevard to define the boulevard itself. And I think the important thing is, these spaces are quite the kind of multi-use spaces, and I suppose they're there to incorporate a variety of activities. So certainly we're looking at, incorporating seating and street furniture, lighting to ensure they're activated. Also just potential to look at, well, these spaces can actually have something, something slightly bolder, such as a pop-up market or small-scale concessions to activate the space during the weekend or during the week with the markets. And I think the street furniture, in the visuals, we're very much saying the street furniture is a key part of the scheme, and we're going to try and avoid lines of bollard. We're going to try and use street furniture and level changes, curbs, etc., to ensure that the vehicles are kept off the public realm as such. And I suppose it's worth saying with street furniture, lighting, these elements are not considered individually. I think the image on the bottom right is quite a good example of showing how you can have lighting incorporated within benches, or planting incorporated within benches, or planting incorporated within bus stops. So we're looking at options to kind of maximise these elements as opposed to just use of individual elements as such. And I think we've mentioned the columns a few times, but I think this image in the bottom left is very good at demonstrating what the lighting will achieve in terms of lighting the carriageway and lighting the public realm, with some feature columns which potentially could help identify Carltonvale with that kind of gateway that we're trying to achieve. And I think with that, there's potential to incorporate Wi-Fi hubs or e-vehicle charging points within those lighting if they're associated with parking as such. And I think it's worth noting that EV will be replaced, I think, singularly. But potentially there is an opportunity for additional feature lighting, which is something we're currently working through with the ecologist, to ensure that any lighting is sensitively chosen to ensure that the nighttime economy of Vale can rotate more of a 24-hour as such. The next slide, Chris. And I suppose, yes, we were very much designing the street along the lines of the healthy streets approach, a kind of modal shift from driving to public transport, walking and cycling. And this will be achieved by the fully segregated cycle lane. Now, I think when we met previously, if anyone was at that one, we obviously had the cycleway shown along the northern side. And we looked at that design in a lot more detail, particularly considered the interfaces with the Premier Gyrator scheme, considering the interface with Kilburn Park Road and Farmhead Road, and that interface with Westminster, I suppose. And we feel as though the two separate cycle paths actually it still achieves that cycling infrastructure, but it kind of very much ties into the existing context where perhaps the cycle path to the north was just a little more distant from the southern carriageway as such. And I suppose for the cycling infrastructure, we're very much referencing the work that's been done in Waltham Forest in a very positive modal shift or a change of. And I suppose the most famous example is the Orford Road, with its quite nice image of planting and families cycling, as well as the cycling infrastructure, which will be clearly delineated. We'll also look at widening the footway to create more accessible, inclusive public realm, and cater for this future pedestrian movement or this higher footfall which the master plan aims to achieve. And I think as well as a cycle infrastructure, there will be cycling facilities such as cycle parking, bicycle rehabilitation, and those will be continuous along Carltonvale to very much promote that kind of cycling culture. And I suppose we are saying the separation and the segregation very much makes the cycle path very much accessible and open for use. And then the bottom image on the right is the arrangement of the bus stop, which is an image from Camden where the cycle paths will go behind the bus stop, which is mainly as the current arrangement. So the bus stop configuration will stay very much as it is on site. That's fine. Yes, and actually we've covered the cycle lanes here a second ago, but yes, the delineation of the cycle path, I think, is one of the key aspects. And I think it was one of the aspirations of the brief to have that separation between cycling activities and the carriageway. And I think that will very much engender that kind of cycling culture. The orcas are being removed, or proposed for removal, and we're suggesting that they will be replaced with either the planting strip to the north or the upstand curb, which will delineate carriageway. And really, I suppose the cycle lane is at a point, we've been working on it since the last consultation, and we're now getting to a point where we're quite comfortable of the greater benefits of the with flow option. And then we're currently now working with our transport consultants who are important and cross. And I suppose we've just got a little question and answer at the bottom there on the left, saying why are the cycle improvements needed? And really, there's some little bullet points as to what we're trying to achieve with this new cycle, which the current infrastructure doesn't provide. And I suppose it's worth saying that obviously Carltonvale is very much this kind of east-west or west-east connection, connecting Maida Vale up through to Queen's Park. So it's an important connection, and that's very much understood.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Marcus. If we could now move on to the social value aspect of the project. So I guess, certainly on this project, we've got quite a variety of social value initiatives. It's been a very exciting and interesting part of the project for ourselves. And it's been great, to have that sort of close involvement with some of the residents and the stakeholders to do something a bit different, to get them engaged in the project, and doing certain things that will set up a bit of a legacy on the project, and also a bit of innovation as well. Looking at different aspects. But it's been great, and there's been a very good response to some of the aspects that we've asked residents to be involved in. So. One of the first aspects of that is the bee course. So we engaged 6 of the local residents on a beekeeping course. And that started off with the online theory course, which completed there on the 1st of March. And then we actually had our first practical session at the Kenwood Apiary in North London there. And that took place there just recently there, and you can see some of the images. This is an image from the actual event itself on the top right and the bottom left there. And it was great, to get a real hands-on session to the beekeeping and to see it at first hand. And those sessions, those practical sessions, will continue during May and August. So we're currently working with the regeneration team to look at plans to set up the South Kilburn Community Apiary. And we're going to be donating 2 beehives together with protective clothing and equipment for beekeeping. So this will look at setting up a bit of a legacy project that will be located within the South Kilburn area, and it'll look to sort of develop this apiary that will continue on in the future. We've also been looking at South Kilburn greening proposals. So we've been working closely with the regeneration housing teams to look at greening or planting proposals to revitalise some of the housing sites within South Kilburn. And we've created a very innovative shrub, hedge and bulb planting proposals. And we'll shortly be going out to tender to get a landscape contractor to carry out those works. And those works will be across 4 sites within South Kilburn. And that will be carried out this summer. Also, we're currently developing proposals for a case study visit. And now with some of the COVID restrictions lifting, we're looking to set up a case study walk around one day, hopefully in June 2021. And we'll be advertising this event, and we'll be looking to take some of the local residents and stakeholders on a walk around through some of the inspirational projects completed in around the areas like Angel and King's Cross. And I guess this will be looking at some of the projects and give an understanding of sort of what's worked in terms of a public realm project or green infrastructure project, and also look at examples of sort of what hasn't worked as well, so that we can learn from them and learn not to make the same mistakes there. So, but certainly this event we'll get speakers from maybe some of the designers who've been involved in the projects, maybe some of the local communities members who've been involved in the projects. It'll be a very engaging day and a very good learning process there. So we'll keep you posted on that event in due course. Also, one of the other events we'll be looking at to hold this summer is a model making workshop, and that will be led by ourselves. And we'll look at getting residents and stakeholders involved in creating models, maybe historical models of what Carltonvale used to look like, what it looks like in its present day, and also to encourage people to build models as to what Carltonvale might look like in the future. What is the street of the future? What can this look like? What sort of attributes would that street have? It's always good to have these sort of, you can look at plan drawings all day long, but it's always good to have engaging hands-on model making workshops and using materials to really get an understanding of the outdoor environment. We'll also be looking to take some of the residents and stakeholders on a tree nursery visit this summer. We'll probably go to one of the local tree nurseries, possibly the Marcham Tree Nursery there. And we'll meet with some of the nursery owners and allow people to get an understanding of how the trees are growing in the nursery environment, the different types of species, the attributes of those species, and also sort of to allow people to get an understanding of sort of what heights these trees can be supplied at, and the quality of these trees and the size of these trees as well. So that'll be a very good experience as well. And lastly, on the construction phase of the project, the residents will be able to take part in some of the planting of some of the shrub species, and that will be under the supervision of ourselves and the contractor on the project as well. So in terms of, just as we're nearing the end of the presentation here, in terms of feedback, it's the whole consultation process is nothing if we don't get your feedback. I would really encourage everybody to provide feedback today, through the question and answers, and also engage, with us. You've got our details. Engage with the project website. At the end of this week, the recording of this will be online. We would encourage you to share that with friends, family, community members, other stakeholders who couldn't make it today. But also go on and we'll be putting presentation boards on the website, so you can take your time, look through those in a bit more detail, and also engage with it. We'll have a feedback form on there, so you can go on to say what you like, what you don't like, and put forward your own ideas and thoughts as well. So again, our project website is www.carltonvaleboulevard.co.uk. This information will be on there from the end of this week. Encourage you to take part in that, and the feedback forms will be on there for the next 3 weeks from Friday. And again, there'll be another co-design workshop in the summer, and that'll be followed by the final exhibition as well. So we have your details, and we'll keep you posted of upcoming events. And for now, certainly any of the consultation events will be held through Zoom until the restrictions dictate otherwise. But lastly, we would encourage you to spread the word amongst your residents. Maybe people who couldn't make it here today, and certainly the more people that we make contact with, the better. And the more feedback we get will really help shape the proposals and create the best project that we can make it.